You're listening to the Family Discipleship Podcast, a podcast of Training the Church. Well, listeners, lucky you, it's ladies' night. It's not really nighttime, but it's just me and Chelsea here. So welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Chelsea, my co-host, and no Adam for this episode, but that's okay. It's because he's nailed this topic, right? He's a great listener, Chelsea, right?
Yeah, he is a good listener.
He's a great listener. We just talked about before hitting record that neither of us feel like we're great listeners. So this is going to be good for our own souls, a good practice talking about it and edifying for both of us as we get started and talk about listening.
Yeah, I'm a work in progress.
What do you think makes someone a good listener?
I think distraction-free listening. One time I went to lunch with this girl, and right when we started lunch, she it seemed like very intentionally took her phone, turned it face down, and set it aside. And this was a long time ago, and I thought, that's thoughtful. She's really saying, you know what? I'm going to set this aside and focus. And I was like, I just felt like, that's nice.
Yeah.
What she just did there. Y'all, she was listening and reading text on her Apple Watch the entire time. I was like, oh, okay.
The gesture didn't really follow.
No, it's like I think afterwards I was like, oh, you can set that phone aside because you're going to be reading text the entire time on your watch. So much easier. It's just, we want to be two places at once, but we can't. And listening requires your attention. Yeah. And we are getting really, really
presence.
We are getting really troubled at giving our attention. But yeah, I think that's what listening is really all about, right? Is you're giving someone your attention.
Yep.
You know?
I think eye contact is important. That's also becoming harder for people to do, to hold eye contact, to be in a conversation for more than the small talk.
Yeah.
And then I think just compassion or the care for the person you're listening to. Yeah. To just acknowledge that what they're saying matters. And so I'm going to listen to it. And that's a little bit challenging for some people. It's challenging for me, honestly. There are times where I'm just thinking about myself. So
yeah. Adam remembers things that people share with him. And a lot of times later, people are always so surprised that he remembered it. But he remembered it because he was actually listening, right? He was actually listening. And people are like, whoa, that means a lot. Because I told you a month ago I was looking for a job, and then I just thought you wouldn't remember, but he'll see them and go, have you found that job? Or, how's it going? And they're so shocked by that. It shocks us when someone cares and listens, remembers, follows up.
Yeah.
So I think that's the full deal with listening, to actually care.
It's salt and light.
Yeah.
A good listener feels like salt and light in today's world for sure.
Big time.
Okay, quick review. So season 8 of Family Discipleship Podcast, we're kind of focusing on marriage and how marriages affect families, discipleship in the home, how they are the foundation for discipleship in the home. And the last 2 episodes have kind of focused on some conflict that happens and occurs pretty frequently in most marriages. Very common is the word I was looking for. It's very common in marriages. And today we are going to talk about listening, which is not just a helpful tool for marriages. So hopefully all of our listeners feel encouraged by this. And man, if you can learn good listening skills and practice good listening, it's going to make you a great parent, a great teacher in the Sunday school classroom. All the things, because listening to children can sometimes be really hard to give them your full attention because you don't always think they're worthy of it. And they are. If they're talking to you and you have an important role in their life, then they're worth listening to. So I'm excited to talk about marriage. I hope the season feels like good friends speaking into the health of our families and marriages at large. So really excited to jump in. Let's see. Okay, first question. How do you think developing as a listener can bless a family?
Well, we just talked about when someone really listens, it communicates care. And when people feel cared about, that is a great jumping off point for everything in life, right? That creates a security in us. It creates confidence in our children. If we have very little attention for our children, we don't care what they have to say, we're not paying attention, we don't care about what they care about, that affects how they feel when they leave our house, right? Their sense of worth or value, those kinds of things. So if you're around a family where everybody seems like a good listener, like people are attentive, they're engaged, they're paying attention to one another, that would feel like, whoa.
Other than,
Yeah, that would feel like, what's going on here? What's y'all's deal? But when I was in nursing school, during my psych rotation, we did a lot of really interesting little practices during that time that really were helpful to me. But one of them, we had like paid actors in different rooms experiencing different psychiatric emergencies or crises. So some were like depression and some were like panic attacks. And these paid actors were very good, you know. But one thing they taught us that day when we sat with like the people with like clinical depression and stuff like that, they said that the chemical reaction that happens in your brain when someone looks you in the eyes, sits with you, talks with you, listens to you, the chemical response, so this is the way God made our brain, the chemical response that happens in your brain is the same chemical response that we get from taking antidepressants.
Whoa. Just being listened to.
Being listened to. Someone looking at you and you feel like they care about you and they care about what you're saying. That causes a chemical reaction in your brain. That reaction is what we're after in antidepressant medications. So let that sink in for a second.
Yeah. That reminds me of, I think Kurt Thompson, he wrote
Soul of Shame.
He did write Soul of Shame. And then he wrote another book about belonging and community. But he just talks about how like some of our deepest needs are to be seen.
Yeah.
To be heard.
Yeah.
And just to like make eye contact with someone and say,
it's a big deal.
You belong here. Yeah. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I also think the converse could be true in terms of listening to our kids and giving them dignity. But I know that there are some couples who maybe the spouse feels like, well, my spouse listens to the kids fine. I don't feel like they listen to me anymore. The kids have taken the priority in the relationship or in the home.
Yeah.
And our marriage now has this backseat because the tyranny of the urgent, right?
Yeah.
Got to do the dishes, got to change the diapers, got to feed the kids.
Yeah.
And so it can feel like you kind of lose that care between your partners, between spouses.
It has to be sought after, you know? It has
fought for, yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't happen incidentally, right? Like you're never going to hear people say that. Like we have this flourishing marriage that's so meaningful to both of us and we've never put any thought or effort into it. You're like, no, people put time and effort, you know, like you and I just talked about, we're both working on being better listeners. I have a real habit of sharing a lot of information about my day or my life with my spouse. And then I don't ask him anything. And eventually he'll go, would you like to hear about my day? And I'm like, yeah, sorry, I forgot you had a day too. It's self-centered. That's what that is.
Well, and your job has a lot of drama involved, which is it's fun to talk about.
Yeah, I have a lot of stories for sure. Like when I come home after 13 hours of being in labor and delivery, I have many plot lines, many stories, and I feel very like wrapped up in it sometimes. I'm excited about everything that happened usually and want to talk about it. And sometimes, but again, there's this like self-centered thing that's like my story is exciting and your story might be boring or mundane.
Yeah.
I'm going,
you had more meetings today?
Yeah. I assume.
You sermon prep?
Yeah. I assume you went to church. I assume you studied God's word and you met with people who needed to be met with.
Yeah.
He still needs to decompress that. He's still a person. So it's just, there's a pride and a self-centeredness that puts my whole experience before his. But yeah, of course he feels more cared about.
I'm going to make it a goal this week to make more eye contact with Eric and just see if he says something. Because I also we talked about this last episode. I like to multitask. So I'm like, we're maybe doing something while we're talking, which is still trying. It's still trying to listen for sure. But the most quality listening is going to happen across from each other or even on a walk. Yeah. So I'm definitely going to see if he notices. Yeah. If I give him.
And then hold it against him if he doesn't.
No, we're not. No.
Oh, that's right. We're done with that.
We're done with that. We've left that behind.
That's out.
I can't go back. Okay. What are some stories from the Bible where we think of Jesus as a listener, as a good listener? What kind of comes to mind?
I think of Mary and Martha, where Martha comes to complain to Jesus. Yeah. She's saying, I'm stressed. And, you know, Jesus says back to her, like, you're anxious and troubled about many things. He's just showing her that he's seen her and he's involved. I don't know. That feels kind of otherworldly for the Lord Jesus Christ to help kind of resolve a sibling dispute, right?
Yeah.
Our children come to us all the time with this
sibling.
Yes. He did this. He did that. And they want me to solve it, you know? And so that just seems such an unbelievable condescension of the Lord to come and listen to these sisters. And it seems like, you know, it says Mary is sitting there listening to Jesus' teaching. So I don't know. He's just so engaging, right? He's like he's a person sitting at his feet and he's like, yeah, I'm going to teach the word. And there are some things that gather a great crowd, but Jesus doesn't say to Mary, like, unless there's a crowd, like you're not really worth it. Like he's present there with her and who knows how many other people are there. It doesn't say, I don't think. But it could be just a few. Yeah. But he's there and it says he's teaching. Yeah. Which is that's really special that Jesus doesn't like places value of like, you're an important person and you're a nobody. But he's like, no, I'm right here with you. And then you have a sister who comes and complains, and he listens to her complaint and he responds to it.
Yeah, that's good.
It's sweet. What about you?
I mean, I think about Peter all the times he listens to Peter and isn't perturbed or dismissive.
Yeah.
But he really seeks to hear and then really address the heart of Peter and encourage Peter. Like he is just so intentional. And then the other one I was thinking of, well, I mean, there's Lazarus, when he raises Lazarus, and he's the compassion that he has when he arrives. And I mean, I didn't pull up my text, but I just think how human he is in those moments, I think is what's so he does not consider himself, kind of Philippians 2. He's not considering and saying like, no, I'm God and I'm above your worries and your concerns. Like he really does care. And he has so much compassion and seeks to care for the people that he's with all the time.
Yeah. Like the time when it says that he sends the disciples on while he dismisses the crowd.
Yeah.
That's always been really sweet to me, thinking about in certain settings, like if you went to go see certain pastors or Bible teachers, there would be no way that you could go talk to them afterwards, right? They have a security team. They are away in a green room.
Yeah.
Like they're gone. They're not accessible. But the fact that Jesus is like, yeah, you guys are tired. You guys are hungry. Okay, y'all go on ahead.
Yeah.
But I'm staying here to dismiss the crowds. To me, I picture him, it doesn't say exactly, but I picture him kind of doing what some pastors do after a service, is really receive people.
Yeah.
Or maybe be available to pray with people or just to minister to them. And that sounds just so personal and so kind.
And then I imagine him, and all of the times it says he goes to pray, him listening to the Father, like what that relationship was like between them, and how much of that, how much of that was him listening to the will of the Father and just being, I don't know, just so
obedient,
selfless, obedient, open-handed with like what God would have him do next. But it just seems like he's constantly listening and waiting for the Father to lead him.
It's kind of hard to think about.
Well, I mean, it's like, because it's, what do you mean?
Like just his relationship with the Father and like listening.
Yeah.
It's like, doesn't he know everything? It's just like, it kind of makes your head
It's
start.
a little mind bending.
Yeah. Going in circles. But like, of course he would listen to the Father.
Yeah.
And it says he prays, and that, that implies he's speaking to the Father too. Yeah. Right. So yeah, it's special.
It is special
to think that he would
It's fun to imagine. And
that he'd do the same thing we need to do.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. How do you imagine a one-on-one conversation with Jesus going?
Well, I think he'd be a great listener.
Yeah.
I think he'd be fun. It's important here to mention when I bring up that show, The Chosen, that The Chosen is not scripture.
Nope.
It's a dramatization of scriptural events. However,
it's so good.
I think it's so good. And there's no way for anybody to like fully capture.
They imagine him so well.
The God-man, Jesus Christ. But when they show him talking with the children on The Chosen, I loved that. He just dignifies everybody.
The first few episodes too.
Yeah, he dignifies everyone. That's what's so special in Christ, is that he is the most dignified. He is morally perfect. He is God in the flesh. He literally has the most dignity, and yet he dignifies everyone. When there's a leper who needs to be cleansed, in that time, it's like the idea was that if you touch them, you become unclean. And rather, Jesus touches them and says, now, no, you become clean. Rather than contaminating me, I purify you. He just dignifies everybody. And so I think a conversation with him would be like that, where he would feel present and you would feel like he cared. I don't think that you would feel judged. And whenever he engages people in the scripture who are caught in sin, he's so tender. When Peter chops off a guy's ear, like Jesus is just the best.
He puts it back on.
He's like, oh, we got a real ear problem, slaps that thing back on.
Was that?
And he says, Peter, put away your sword.
Because this episode's about listening, you had to bring up the ear story.
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
Oh, I thought maybe that was why you were bringing it up.
All the ways that he deals with Peter are just so sweet.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like very like, oh, Peter.
Yeah.
Oh, you. But he loves him. You know? He loves him so much. Yeah, I just think a conversation with Jesus could be really sweet, because people in the scriptures always seem to feel loved, except the Pharisees.
Yeah. Well, that's because of pride.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It's a problem.
You know what I mean. What do you think it would be like?
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be, he's so winsome, right? I just feel like it would be enjoyable. Mm-hmm. I would feel heard. I'm sure he would ask great questions that, kind of like a counselor, just kind of really get right to the heart.
Yeah.
And I would hopefully receive whatever instruction he has, based on how I also kind of hear him saying, tell me more.
Yeah.
Like he wants to hear.
Yeah. When you think about counselors, you're like, we pay counselors to do what? To listen, right? And to listen intently so that they can give counsel. But a big part of that I think people find so healing is honestly just the opportunity to share.
Yeah.
When someone's giving you their undivided attention. And
Totally.
we call Jesus mighty counselor.
Yeah.
That we don't have to pay for.
Yeah.
Speaking of counselors, your husband's been a counselor, Cassie.
He is a counselor.
Do you think that he developed good listening skills? And does that translate into your marriage? Do you think he's always been a good listener? How does this play in for y'all?
I think he's always been a good listener. I think he's developed, I'm sure he's strengthened the muscle because of the career path that he chose. But I think it's one of the reasons why his parents really affirmed and called him to it when he decided to seek a master's and kind of change careers from music industry to counseling. That it was because of their leading him. They were like, we really think that you have a gift and you've got a gift and we want to see you steward that gift of counsel. And so all that to say, he's a great listener, maybe too good. He remembers everything too. And so, yeah, it does translate to home. I think, like we mentioned in the last episode, I think sometimes like how present he is and how tuned in he is can feel sometimes intimidating as a wife, even because I'm like kind of waiting for, I don't know, not the rebuke, but I just kind of always waiting to be counseled. He's really good about not doing it, but I'm kind of like, no, and internally he's probably doing it. But then also I can grow frustrated because if he's listening to one of our children, but I want him to be helping with dinner. But I'm like, no, he's doing the better. Martha and Mary.
Yeah, he's
Martha and Mary.
chosen the better portion.
He's chosen the better portion, right? He's sitting at the feet of my children, my daughters, and he's hearing about their day and he's addressing their concerns and he's giving dignity to their friend issues or their anxieties, and I'm making dinner. So he's a great listener. Yeah. It's something our whole family is blessed by that.
Yeah.
Why do you think listening is so hard for people? Why is it a skill we even have to strengthen? Why doesn't it come more naturally?
I think because we love ourselves.
Totally.
I want people to listen to me, but then I have to make myself stay focused sometimes when someone else is sharing about something. I care, but I could care more, but our minds just, I think they come back to me, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody thinks about themselves primarily. You wake up in the morning and you think about, what am I going to do today? What are my events, my appointments, my goals? You don't wake up in the morning and just think about what is everybody else doing. You think about me, So I think that makes it hard. I'm focused on me, and it takes an intentional effort to pull that away, to focus on someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I'm thinking of my next response. Mm-hmm. Like, how am I going to respond to that? Oh, they just said this, that made me think of this. So I want to share that.
Yeah. Yeah. Formulating a response.
Yes. Or wanting to share their story. I don't remember who, but someone was telling me active listening is where you kind of talk over each other and you're agreeing all the time. And it drives Eric crazy. He's like, that's not listening. That's just talking over each other. And you don't care because you're thinking about yourself. You're not actually thinking about what the other person is saying, which is, it's heartbreaking, especially knowing that scientifically being listened to is good for our souls. It's good for our bodies, you know? And so, man, it's definitely a skill I want to practice and grow and be better at. Okay. The next question is, how would listening to one another prevent some of the things that poison our marriages?
In marriage, I think we all want to have a really safe place to pour out what's heavy, what feels scary to us, or what feels hurtful. So when there's not good listening in a marriage, it drives people right to that assumption you don't care.
Yeah.
And as soon as you feel like someone doesn't care about you, it's really hard to feel like, oh, we're on the same team.
Totally.
And I'm just so grateful. That feels just like a pretty unbearable distraction to go, I'm pretty sure this person doesn't care about me. And so listening in our marriages, I think, goes a long way. Also, if we're not listening, then how can we help? And as wives, we know that we're meant to be helpers. God calls himself a helper as well. In marriage, what's so great about being married is hey, you're not alone going through this life and through all these decisions, right? We want somebody to help us with everything, with big decisions and little decisions. We want help. But if no one's listening, then you can't help.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think one of the lies we can get caught up in, especially if when our kids were little, well, listening to each other actually has kind of evolved in different seasons of marriage. But when the kids are little, you're just so tired. And so you really do have to fight for it. And I think the mistake we made was, this is just a season. Let's just we're going to feel a little disconnected. We're probably not going to get as much time as we'd like to talk or to work through this issue, especially if there's conflict. So let's shelf it.
Yeah.
until they're older. We're more rested.
Until the youngest one goes to kindergarten.
Yeah, what? Yeah, I guess. I don't know what, but that's just like you're in survival mode.
Yeah.
Your marriage is in survival mode in some ways. And now what's so interesting is that for us to have a meaningful conversation, depending on the topic, while our kids are awake and present, they're clued in.
Yeah.
So they want to be part of the conversation.
Yeah,
they
we have to
questions.
run and hide.
Yes. We go for walks now. We're like,
they
bye.
They knock on our door and they're like, when are y'all coming out? Why is this talk so long? And you're like, it's not even a big talk. It's just we just
can't do this.
We can't do all this, with you present.
We can't make plans for the weekend without them being like weighing in. Well, what time will we go? And what about this? And do I have a game? And like, are we going to go see the new movie that's out? We're like, we just want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
So it just changes. It's really interesting. But I think because it's changing, it's hard to stay on top of it and making sure that you're working hard to be a good listener and you're working hard to carve out that time to communicate and make sure that you feel heard and that you're also doing some hearing. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I think when you're talking about that tyranny of the urgent too, I think, that exists in every home. And at the same time, there are things that we treat as urgent that really aren't, and it prevents us from showing that care for our spouse. And there's something in us that it says, well, I just have to get this done. Because if this isn't done, then I'm not going to feel this way or that way or whatever.
Well, we equate urgent with important.
Yeah.
And it's not. They're not mutually. They're not mutually inclusive.
Yeah. It's always hard for me to get geared up about dishes or laundry because dishes and laundry are perpetual and,
mundane tasks. Yeah.
Well, you're just never going to get ahead. Yeah. You know what I mean? So to me, I'm always like, well, if any sort of thing comes up, like those dishes can sit right there. It's okay.
Yeah.
Because dishes aren't something that you just finish one day and say, there, now I'm done with dishes.
Yeah.
No, they're always going to be there and there'll be more. And so I don't like the sight of them piled up either, but I won't.
The kids get old enough to do them.
That is fantastic.
So great.
But yeah, I won't let them being piled up prevent me from something better.
Yeah.
Just because we got to do this or do that, But I think that creeps into a lot of marriages, especially when kids are little. Well, we just have to do this.
Yeah.
Have to do that. And you're like, okay, well, the kid nothing terrible is going to happen if they don't get that bath today or whatever. I don't know.
Eric is so good at being able to tune the girls out. I cannot do it. They can be in their bedroom with the door closed and we're in the dining room. I can hear when conflict is arising. Mm-hmm. I can hear the tension.
Me too.
And I totally lose focus. I'm like, oh, they're at it again or whatever. And he's like, what are you talking about? And so then there's this distraction too, where I have to work to be disciplined to not let it.
Yeah.
I have to work hard to ignore them. It's effortless for them. He doesn't hear unless they're in his face saying dad,
What a gift. What a gift.
What a gift. Yeah. That's not a weakness again. That's a strength. It's so good.
Yeah. Okay. So something we're doing in this little series, listeners, is we're trying to talk about what it would look like in marriage when people own everything they can own. And when we release our spouse, when we hold nothing against them. So, Cassie, when it comes to listening, what would it look like if a spouse owned everything they could, especially when it comes to being a poor listener?
I think it starts with asking for some self-awareness, helping God see rightly the way you're approaching conversations and maybe why there's some miscommunication. Often things can get chalked as we're miscommunicating, or maybe you're just not listening or being heard.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think if we can grow in some self-awareness, and I think we have the opportunity to own, an example might be, we're trying to have a conversation, multitasking, doing dishes, the vent hood's on, and Eric brings something up that's important. In that moment, I can say, this isn't a good time. I can kind of snap at it or accuse him.
Yeah.
Rather than just say, oh, I'm really distracted. I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I can't hear what you're I can't participate in the conversation in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
And that's my bad because I just can't do all these things. Can we talk about this later?
Yeah.
Or
thanks for asking. I'm so glad you want to talk about
yes,
this.
Yeah. I want to.
I love to talk to you.
Yes.
But I want to be able to give you my full attention.
Yes. Or if you find yourself drifting, saying right in that moment, I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I just got distracted. Can you repeat what you said? Rather than try and cover it. It's more important that you just ask them to repeat and that you hear what they said than try and protect your own pride that you weren't listening fully or being present. And so I think there's opportunities for us to own our parts when we find ourselves not listening fully, being distracted, multitasking, kind of whatever the enemies to our good listening skills would be, and then seeking to strengthen those muscles.
My tendency is to always seek a valiant excuse.
Oh yeah.
Why I wasn't listening rather than just saying, sorry, I just put myself before you. That's what I did.
Yeah.
But instead, sometimes my spouse will say something and then it's clear that I obviously wasn't listening or didn't hear it. And it's like, hey, did you hear that? I really wanted you to hear that. And I'm like, sorry, I have to do this thing right now on my phone. When instead it should be, oh my gosh, I bet that made you feel uncared about.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I got distracted and I put it first. When obviously I can answer this text another time, but I'll treat it like, how dare you not know this was so important?
You just interrupted this conversation.
Yeah.
Even though they might have been in the other room. They might have even seen, they don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Another good skill that we've learned actually through our girls' education in classical schools, there's a big thing about narration. And so you say back what you've heard with as much detail as you can. And that would get exhausting in a marriage. So don't hear me say literally repeat everything your spouse just said. But I do think there's a helpful, like, hey, what did you just hear me say? Especially if it's around the conversations around conflict, kind of really understand it and making sure there's no assumptions being made.
Yeah.
We're not jumping to conclusions. We're not believing the worst. We're believing the best, and really giving kind of an honest and giving integrity to the conversation by repeating back and saying, okay, I heard you say this. Is that right? And kind of going back and forth, making sure you're hearing everything that's being said and listening well.
For sure.
Okay. What about the second part of this? The other side of the coin is, what if we held nothing against our spouse when it came to listening skills? What would that look like, Chelsea?
Oh, I'll tell you what it won't look like. I've had a habit. So I really feel like my husband is an excellent listener. But then in the rare moments where I feel like I'm the one who remembered something and so he doesn't remember it. So now I'm going to kind of be exasperated. I've told you this before, whatever.
I'm so guilty of that.
Our children's friends' names are hard for my husband to remember. I think they all just look like little kids.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know why. It is easier for me to remember a lot about these different families sometimes. And so when we have to tell him over and over and over again, like who this person is and what this event is that's happening, there have been times in our marriage where regretfully, I have kind of subtly kind of shamed my husband.
Yeah.
Like, don't you know that? Kind of thing.
I did this the other day, literally. I'm going to have to apologize.
But sometimes when I'm doing better, I'll say, hey, just want to jog your memory. This is that girl who had that problem, and then remember the thing. And so just keep that in mind when we see her parents.
We're going to help each other.
I just want to help him. And then he'll be like, oh, thanks. That's super helpful. Which my husband tries to learn the names of every single person in our church, which is a lot of people.
He's so intentional.
He is. And he's trying to remember a lot of things. And so it's so just ungracious of me when I'll be like, here's one thing you didn't remember.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But no, I can be helpful. Instead of holding that against him and reminding him in a shameful way of like, I just want to heap this on you, I can just be a helper. And that always creates more blessing for both of us. So I don't know why I don't choose it every time. I think sometimes I don't know. It's just sin. It's sin in me. It's self-centered. It's prideful. But to hold nothing against him in our listening situations would be to never shame him for what he's not able to remember. There's no way he could remember every single thing that every single person tells him all the time. But sometimes, especially when it relates to our kids, I've made him feel bad about something he doesn't remember that they told him.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I don't want him to feel bad. He's a great dad. I have an opportunity to build him up and help him look his best.
Yeah.
By jogging his memory for some of those things. Yeah. I hate that I haven't always taken that opportunity.
It makes me wonder, because we've been blessed with spouses who are good listeners. And I think anecdotally, I would say that might be rare, or that not all wives feel that way.
Sure.
Not all spouses feel that way, And so then I guess if we were to flip it and say what would it look like for Adam and Eric to not hold against us. So let's say that we're not the good listeners in our marriage. They're the better of the two. Mm-hmm. Then what it would look like for them to, if it's especially hurt them that we weren't listening.
Yeah.
How would you suggest they approach that? They forgive us, but then also in humility and vulnerability say I really want to be heard. I don't know.
Yeah. We've had this conversation several times, and I'm really grateful that my spouse has always come to me like that, graciously, gently, in a way that makes me see the hurt, not a way to shame me or make me feel guilty, but it's just to say oh man, if it feels like you don't care about that thing that's going on with me, it just hurts because I want you in every part of my life. So I want you to know what I'm going through, and I want your help. I want your insight. I want to do this with you, but if you're not listening, it hurts. And that's always the way he's kind of approached that with me when I feel like I've just kind of ignored something big. Sometimes something big happens in his life. And if he comes home and I'm cooking dinner, in that moment, I can be all about dinner. On his end, though, he can be gracious and go, I know Chelsea gets really involved in the thing that's right before her. And it's not that she, overlooked the importance of this event. It's just I busted in the kitchen door right when she was managing a lot. She was focused on that. But I'm sure that benefit of the doubt goes an impossibly long way in marriage. Like you said, where we assume the best about somebody. So he could say, I'm sure she's just trying to put a good meal on the table before we have basketball. And after that, we have student ministry. And after that, we're going to do the podcast. There's a gracious way to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, but also say, I just want you to know it blesses me so much when you ask me about my day.
What I hear you say too is that, or what I hear kind of wrapped up in that, which I think will be really helpful for our listeners, is that if we're going to approach our spouse about wanting them to grow in their listening skills or habits, that rather than come at it from like a critical or angry place, kind of really bare your soul. What's underneath the irritation, anger could be like wounds or hurt. And like, hey, this maybe has developed over a long time. Maybe you've been married 5 years and you felt like you don't feel heard or listened to, or it's been 15 or whatever it is. And so I think that requires a lot of vulnerability. And so I would say obviously go into that with a ton of prayer and asking God to protect you and to shepherd you and give you discernment. And then I just think it's more of an invitation to grow than it is this condemnation of like, you're a bad listener.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to put this, now there's this identifier on you. This is who you are.
Yeah.
And I'm mad at you. That's so different than like, I'm kind of hurt. I've pinpointed it to this. I don't think I feel heard. I'd love to invite you into this part of my life. I'd love for us to practice like better conversation skills or whatever it is. Yeah. Kind of approach it that way.
Yeah. A positive way of going like, I want you in it with me, rather than like you are a self-centered this or that, that is unhelpful. But like you said, instead of anger, I think Adam and I are always trying to encourage a lot of couples of like what comes out in anger is almost always actually grief. And healthier marriages treat it as such.
Yeah.
Like move it into the grief column as fast as you possibly can. Because yes, you're mad or you felt like you were mad. Why are you mad? Because this hurts.
Yeah.
I'm grieved. I'm disappointed. I'm sad. But being sad makes us feel weak and being angry makes us feel strong.
Yeah.
But the sooner you can move whatever that grievance is to the grief column to say, I'm sad. To the point where Adam and I will say, I'm sad at you.
Oh, I love that. That's so cute.
It's not that I'm mad at you. I'm sad
at you.
I'm sad at you because I wanted you to be here or be there. And then I got sad because, this thing didn't happen, but it's not an anger. I want you away. It's a sadness because I wanted you close.
Okay, listeners, you're going to want to hit the back 15-second button. I think it's 15 seconds back. Hit it a couple times and listen to that again because it's so good. It's just so good to think about like the posture of anger, that feeling like a strong emotion. And that feels like a better position to approach your spouse from than that of weakness and sadness. But the weakness and sadness will take you a lot further, hopefully in your like marital conflict and seeking to love one another better than the stance of anger, the kind of the strong stance of anger.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's really good. Sad. I'm going to use that. I'm sad at you, Eric.
I'm sad at you.
I'm sad at you, Eric. I do not like weakness. I do not like sadness. I much prefer.
I don't like it either, but I'll tell you as this has been cultivated in our marriage, I feel like my husband wouldn't exploit it. Like when I'm
it's safe.
Yeah. When I'm showing that kind of weakness to say, my feelings got so hurt. I feel sad.
Yeah.
When you come to somebody with anger and what looks like anger, yelling, name calling, tense activities.
Accusations,
people often rise up to match that.
Yeah, it's combative.
It is. It's combative. But when you meet somebody with your sadness, people are usually moved. There's just a softness about that, that you're not just going to yell at someone for being sad. And so while that took a lot of growth for me in our marriage, that was not easy for me to actually just even admit that I'm sad. I want to be like, no, I'm fine. I want to do that bit. That bit's unhelpful when you're not fine. Just say, no, I'm not fine.
I'd probably have to do some even heart work to really get myself to see the sadness because I'm just so prone to jumping straight to anger. I'm just like the quick response reaction rather than doing the work of like, why does this bother me? Oh, I think maybe it's because I'm disappointed or I'm sad. That the reality is this.
Feel let down. But we feel really tough when we're like, I'm just enraged. That feels like control, but it's not. It's out of control.
Well, I hope we all grow in listening. And I hope that all of our listeners, that our families would be families that listen well, that we would be raising children that listen well, And it really is a discipline and a strength, like a muscle to strengthen and to practice. And so hope this has encouraged you listeners. Thanks for listening. If you think it is as important as we do to disciple our families, please help us out by giving us a great review wherever you listen to podcasts, by visiting one of our sponsors, or sharing this episode with one of your friends. If you want to keep up with us or join the conversation, you can find us at familydiscipleship.com or follow the Family Discipleship Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. We love you, listeners. We will see you next week.